Okay, good evening from Jerusalem. For those who don't know me, my name is Yael Levontin, and I'm PR and Communications Manager here in Israel for Jewish National Fund USA. Please note that the last briefing will be tomorrow, Thursday at 7 p.m. Israel time, 12 p.m. Eastern, and 9 a.m. Pacific. I want to thank the President of Jewish National Fund USA, Lizerbram, the Board of Directors of the Task Force chairs and committees, because everyone is playing a dynamic role. And of course, I'd like to thank all the partners of Jewish National Fund USA. We have another fundraising challenge. We have a very special donor who will donate a new fire truck if we can find him a match. So double your impact today, and please consider making a gift that will help strengthen our friends and family in Israel. Miriam, if you can, please post the link below in the chat. During the 11 days of Operation Guardians of the Wall, more than 4,360 rockets were fired at Israel, of which 3,573 fell inside Israeli territory, the rest falling either inside the Gaza Strip or into the sea. The Iron Dome aerial defense system intercepted about 90% of the rockets, which is quite incredible. 11 civilians were killed by rocket fire, and an IDF soldier were killed by the anti-tank missile. Several hundred people were injured, and there was property damage to homes and schools, industry, commerce, and agriculture. The IDF attacked about 1,500 terrorist targets in the Gaza Strip. Israelis living on the border with Gaza say life there is 99% heaven and 1% hell. Providing these communities with everything they need to live and thrive doesn't happen overnight. It takes years of planning and implementation. Our work includes Jewish National Fund USA's resilience centers in Eshkol, Ramat HaNegev, and Shahar Hermelin, our fortified indoor playground in Sderot, and Children's Protected Kingdom in Eshkol, there to keep children safe. The newly completed animal therapy in Sderot, purchasing and painting bomb shelters, and support for local firefighters with fire trucks and wagons and stations, among many other initiatives. All are truly vital and literally life-saving resources for these regions every day. As I've said in the past calls, Jewish National Fund USA runs an urgency campaign and not an emergency campaign. We were there yesterday, we're here today, and we will most definitely be here also tomorrow. So please consider making a gift to help support our friends and families. So today I would like to call on a few very, very special friends of mine to talk about their experience over the past couple of very difficult weeks here in Israel. We'll be speaking with Shahar Hermelin, our Director of Tourism here in Israel, Yoel Rosby, our very talented project manager, Eric Narrow, our affiliates coordinator, Mark Shinar, who's the head of AMHSI, and Lori Dekalo, a lay leader from Chicago, who's going to tell us about her experience here in Israel. But Mark, I'd like to start with you. Are you on?
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, so Mark, can you please share with us what were your first thoughts once the fighting began? How did you manage to juggle both being in charge of 250 kids and having your own family at home to worry about?
Sure. Thanks for having us. My first thoughts were, this is scary, and this is a ton of responsibility, both as a parent who has 4 young children at home, and also, I live in Modi'in, which is not generally an area that would get these kinds of sirens, and all of a sudden Modi'in, and then even more pressing for me professionally was that Hod Sharon, where campuses, Alexander Muss High School and Israel campuses, started getting sirens, and we were rushing kids into bomb shelters at all hours, afternoon, evening, and then several times 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And it was frightening. And I think it's important from an educational perspective to remember that we as the adults are always setting a tone. Kids are looking to us to know how to feel, how to react, how to experience any sort of trauma or crisis. And so if we're impacted by that in physical ways, the kids are going to take their cues from us. So it's critical that the adults in their lives stay calm, collected, and very clear about what our expectations are for safety and security. And we think about that in 3 different ways. We talked a lot about that educationally, So talking to the kids about what was going on, making sure they had a map of Israel in their hands and they knew where Gaza was, where the Gaza envelope was, where Hoda Sharon was in relation to that. If kids were traveling up north on Yam Liyam, as they did last week, where Lebanon is in relation to the Kinneret, where they were going to be. These are all important educational moments and what was going on here in the country. You have to think about things programmatically, which means we were moving itinerary all the time. We didn't make a move without talking to Moked Teva, which had their instructions from Pikoda Oref, from the front line. So every morning at 6 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, we're speaking to government officials with our itinerary and making decisions about whether or not we can programmatically move forward with our plans. And then, of course, the most important thing is social emotional well-being of the kids and making sure that they are validated, that they have the opportunity to talk about what's going on, to really understand that this is a frightening time. And what does that mean to be frightened? But also, what does it mean to be here in Israel? And how impactful and meaningful it is that they are part of the narrative and they are part of this Jewish history moment. They will go back to the United States so much stronger and so much more connected because they went through something that was difficult. I wish they didn't have to, but because they did, it makes so much more meaning for their experience overall. And finally, the last piece, once we get through the educational, programmatic, and social emotional, is a ton of communication, a lot of conversation with parents way back home. 250 students here means 500 very, very nervous parents at home, plus grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, etc. And so we did a great deal of communication, often twice a day emails, letting parents know exactly where the kids were, exactly what was happening here in the country. And I am thrilled to say it's over because we were exhausted, but it was an intense 11 days. It was a really, really remarkable time for all of us, I know. And here we are on the other side, thank God.
So I have a question come in, actually two questions. One, the first one is who dealt with it better, the kids or the parents abroad? And the second question is, did the kids go on with their regular studies?
Yeah. That's a great question. So who dealt with it better? I will tell you, and it will come as no surprise, that those of us in Israel tend to deal with these things better than those of us abroad who are just watching news. Because when you're here, even when it is real and the sirens are blaring, you do gain a little bit more perspective that there is real life. And that kind of moves on to your second question. Yeah, of course, life is certainly life in Israel is about moving forward and marching on. And that's what we do here. And that's the educational message. We don't huddle, we don't hide, we don't run away. We might shift and we might pivot, but we certainly don't disappear. And so learning continued. I wouldn't say uninterrupted. We had to shift it. It was certainly interrupted. Learning continued, general studies continued, AP exams. Kids were taking AP exams in bomb shelters just in case. AP exams continued. And of course, the phenomenal Tiulim continued. Did we have to shift our itinerary? Often. When we wanted to be in Tel Aviv or the Old City, we were supposed to be, for example, in Yerushalayim for Shavuot. We could have been in Yerushalayim for Shavuot, but we made the decision not to be because we just felt like we wanted to stay on campus together where everybody felt kind of like they were in their home base. So certainly we shifted and made certain decisions here or there, but the program absolutely continued.
Oh, Mark, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm actually going to call on Yoel Rosby now. Yoel, hey. You were one of the first people that Michal Shiloch from Akko called after the riots and the destruction of our Jewish National Fund USA Western Galley, now Visitor Center. You also personally drove up to Akko to see the damage with your own eyes. Can you tell us a little bit about how you felt and what the plans are moving forward? What do you feel are the biggest needs right now for the center?
That's a great question, Yael. First of all, thank you everybody for getting on and giving me the chance to speak to you all. I'd like to just build off maybe what Mark said. You know, you hear a war in Gaza and you think the Gaza Envelope, and as a project manager, part of the Israel operations, you're thinking, okay, what initiatives does Jewish National Fund have on the front line in Gaza? Okay, we have X, Y, and we have 15, 20, 30 initiatives throughout that border. And you're like, okay, what are we going to do to protect that? And then we get the phone call that Akko was a casualty of this atrocity. And you're thinking, where did that come from? And I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old and a 2-month-old at home. And you're just thinking, well, if it's hitting there, and then there was a siren, and suddenly you're disoriented and you're trying to figure out where your bearings are. So I think the first thing, if you asked how I was feeling, was get your bearings. And what Mark said, the adults, we had to be strong for our children. We had to be strong for our neighbors that couldn't be strong. And we had to be strong for our affiliates that needed us to be there. And I drove up to Akko, and I'll tell you the truth. I'll tell all of you the truth. It's not a secret. There's over 200 people here on this call. And I didn't know what to think. I said, Akko is a place where a week prior, Russell and Eric Michelson and all of us just had lunch there meeting with the staff. And suddenly that restaurant was burnt down. And I walked in there a little fearful. And then suddenly we walked into the old city of Akko, me and Michal Shiloach from Western Galilee now. And we're greeted by hugs and by kisses and by tears. And you look around and it's our neighbors that put out the fire in the visitor center saying, we're sorry we couldn't get there sooner. So if you're asking what it was like to be there, it was surreal. It was, hold on a minute, I came with this preconceived notion that you guys were the ones that were rioting and burning it down, but no, it was this minute minority that was just trying to make noise and trouble and stir up trouble where there didn't have to be, where there was this coexistence and this beauty that they were trying to shift that status quo. And just everybody we met was just like, we're sorry this happened. When you start cleaning up, can we help you? And what do I think about the future of Akko? I think we're a nation that's seeking to heal, and Akko is a part of that nation. It's seeking to heal. People are seeking to get back to that status quo, to that beauty, to that coexistence. And it all begins with building bigger and better. Our fearless leader, Russell, told me from the get-go, our first phone call, he said, we're going to do it bigger and better. And Eric Michelson and I are driving up there again on Tuesday, and we're going to see it, and we're starting to clean up, and we're starting to think bigger, and we have an architect already working on the new lighting that we're going to put in, because that is what healing is about. It's a city that needs to see that Jewish National Fund is not turning around because we got a slap across the face, and we did. But we're going to learn from that and build off that. And we have Muss students that are on a trip for a week in Kfar Masaryk, right across the highway, and they're going to come to the center. And I hope by then they'll be able to put a coat of paint on the wall. And we have all the Western Galilee Now members and all of the consortium of tourism operators that want to come and help clean up. So what is the message for the future? It's bigger, it's better, it's healing. And I think everybody here and with the support of everyone on this call is starting that process, because the rockets, thank God, are not flying anymore. And now we can start that process of moving forward. And when we say being there tomorrow, Jewish National Fund is going to be there tomorrow. It's not a buzzword. It's what we live by, and that's what we're going into now. So
that's a great answer. Yoel, actually, I got another question for you as you were speaking. What was the morale of the Western Galilee Now staff?
I think just like everybody that's involved in Jewish National Fund, we felt like our house was violated. It was this place, it was like this Switzerland, for lack of a better term. It was where everybody came together to learn about what you can do in the Galilee and how you can have a better time, and how we can shift that demographic and shift that conversation from, oh, the Galilee is this place out in the frontier, to, wow, it's going to be the next big thing, and tourism and culinary, and this is everything we're doing. And suddenly it was violated. So their morale was low, and we got on calls and we were crying together, yes. But then when we walked in, we started sweeping up together. And the first thing, there's a Judith Bar-Or. She's the beautiful, amazing person that sits behind the desk in the Tourist Information Center. The first thing she did was she saw that the Israeli flag was on the floor, and she picked up that flag and she put it on top, and she said, this is the beginning of the healing. This is the beginning. And she's someone that sits there day in, day out, 8 hours a day. And that's what she chose to pick up. That's what she put up. So what was the morale? It was bad. How's the morale now? Better than ever.
So, wow, when you say that, I get all teary, but I'd like to share that we're building with Go Northwest, of course, and the Arts and Entertainment event in July 20th. The details will come in the future. So yeah, if you're interested, I think that making a gift today, a donation, being part of the conversation of that building forward, I think that if you can, please do so. Miriam, once again, if you could just post that in the link. Thank you so much, Yoel. And let's make it bigger and better. That's great. Eric Nero, you're up next. Are you here?
I am here.
Hi, Nero. So I think what's so beautiful and unique and special about Jewish National Fund USA is the way that we immediately mobilize and get help to our affiliates on the ground. Can you tell us a little bit about that process? How did you know who needs help? And how fast was it once that request for help came in until the moment they actually received it in their hands?
Of course. Now, as you know, you all said, the very first thing that you think about is our friends and family, our affiliates that are in the Gaza Envelope area. And when violence first comes up, as we've seen, unfortunately, over the past few years, that's the first area that we think about. But all of a sudden, you have this situation that impacts everybody, whether it's rockets over the center of Israel or civil unrest within cities that we work in. And the very first thing, you know, of course, that we did, Eric Michelson called all of our affiliates together, and we had these daily Zoom calls together, not only to assess what's going on, but just to be there for one another. And that sense of camaraderie and mutual support. I think in the very beginning, people are just trying to get their bearings to figure out what is the extent of what's happening. You don't want to jump the gun. You want to be able to give that support. So it's almost organic. The very first thing that you saw was that our affiliates were reaching out to each other. This natural progression, whether you had our friends in the Central Arava who started to welcome in families and do programming for people from the Gaza Envelope. And of course, all the work that we're doing with the firefighters. And you had Makom and Green Horizons and Hashomer Chadash, all working inside of communities that were dealing with this, you know, working together. And that was just, it was very heartwarming to see just the natural strength of our network. Because, you know, we say, how did we mobilize? It's not that we have to mobilize, we're already there. Our network is so vast between all of our affiliates that we have these boots on the ground that are ready to spring into action at a moment's notice and go above and beyond in order to support each other. And that's what the strength of Jewish National Fund is. Now, going into the weekend, we had a bit of a more complicated situation because it was a holiday weekend, meaning that those who are Shomer Shabbat or those who are observing the holiday maybe are not able to be in communication. As soon as the holiday was over, my phone starts going off. And of course, our partners that are getting hit the hardest, the ones in the Gaza Envelope, you know, Chalutza, Sderot, all of those areas, trying to figure out, you know, what do we need? And we had come together before, Yoel and I and Eric and other members of our staff, and everybody really came together to identify what are those needs. But until things are really happening, you don't know what's going to be the next day. And as the escalation continued to grow, all of these municipalities and our partners in the Gaza Envelope, the first people they turned to was Jewish National Fund. And they said, we need help. We need to bring people out. We need to provide therapy for the people that are in the shelters. These are all things that we're already positioned to do, but we need to bolster that support. And they know that when they come to us, we could do it. And it's hard. It's hard because everybody needs help. And it's even more difficult to identify and prioritize what can we do now that's going to create an immediate impact, and what are things that we can do in the long term that are going to help alleviate situations later on. So when Michal Uziahu from the Eshkol Regional Council and Jarell Abramovitz from Sderot, when they started to call, and these people have nerves of steel. I mean, they've been living in this area and they've been dealing with all of this, but you can hear it's not fear and it's not desperation. It is transparency. It's coming to you and saying, we need help to move families out. And we got Russell Robinson on the phone. Alon Badichi, our executive director, helped work to figure out how much do we need to invest now, and what can we do in order to be able to help each other. And in terms of the second part of your question, what is the immediate impact? It is just that, standing by, waiting for our call to see how much we can support to bring the first 100 families out, and then the next 100 families. And all of that is while we're raising money and we're getting information, that we're raising money, and our fundraisers are working around the clock, even though it was a holiday weekend, because that's what it means. We're not, we're not a 9-to-5 type of organization. We work around the clock as the needs are, and to see it put into action, but most importantly, to get these phone calls afterwards thanking us. Eric, thank you. I said, it's not me. It's all of us. It's all of us doing this. I'm just coordinating. It's all of you, everybody that's on the call. It's everybody that's part of this family that makes this happen. And that's what we're known for.
Okay, thank you. I guess every time on all of our posts on Facebook, we always say the JNF family, and it's true. It's exactly what you're saying. So thank you, Eric. Shahar, are you here, Shahar?
I am. Hi.
Shahar. So I'm going to ask you a little bit to tell us about your experience running into the safe room quite often since you live by Tel Aviv. Can you share with us a little bit, just shortly, about how you felt yourself, your family?
Sure. Well, war is no fun. I'm not revealing any secrets here. And it was war, whether you call it an operation or not, it's war. And of course, what we experienced here in Givatayim, right next door to Tel Aviv, was nowhere near what our friends and partners in the Gaza Envelope or Beersheba or Ofakim and all that areas, Chalutza, had to go through. But still, we had our share of rocket attacks. And when you're at home with your family, and for example, we brought my in-laws here because they live in an old apartment building where there are no safe rooms, only a shelter, which is 2 stories down, and you cannot expect an 81 and a 76-year-old people just to rush 2 floors down in the middle of the night when the sirens go off. So we brought everybody in, and you need to be on top of the situation. You need to make sure everybody's safe. You need to stay calm because it's always more difficult for your children and for your elderly in-laws than for yourself. And at the same time, you still need to do your work and be in touch with everybody because, like Eric Nero described, work goes on and work intensifies during times like this. We just, I personally just went on autopilot. You do what you have to do. You know that when the sirens, first of all, you don't sleep very well at night. You're half awake waiting for the sirens to go off because our friends on the other side of the Gaza Strip border like to fire at Tel Aviv in the middle of the night, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. So you're not exactly asleep and you wait for the sirens, and then when it does go off, then you have to do what you have to do, make sure that everybody's up, everybody's in the safe room. And at the same time, you need to check with all your friends and your family if everybody else is safe. So it's not fun, but you know what? It's part of being an Israeli and living in Israel. And every time things like this happen, it just makes us stronger. And you know that you went through this very rough patch, but you came out, and here we are. And with the amazing support, I had so many friends from the US texting me all the time and calling just to make sure that we're okay, nothing more than that. And it's heartwarming and it's huge support. You cannot even imagine how helpful that is. So we did what we had to do. We know it's part of life. Our children know it's part of living here. And here we are on the other side. And hopefully it will take a long time before we'll have to go through this again.
So I'm getting a lot of messages of love and support for you, Shahar. Looks like you have a lot of people out there.
I love everybody back. Thank
They
you.
would like to know, their biggest question is, Shahar, will you take us on a tour soon?
Well, sure. First of all, you're all welcome to come and see my safe room, just so you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, of course, we cannot wait to have people back here. We just got a couple of calls about the first donors that supposed to be here over the next couple of weeks. It's so exciting, you know, and we cannot wait for the first missions. Hopefully, we'll have Jalen here in about in a few weeks, and of course, everybody's waiting for October. And then
let's not forget October National Conference 2021 here in Israel.
Yeah,
we haven't signed up yet. Please make sure to sign up. Miriam, if you can just please post that link as well in the chat.
We are waiting for everyone. We cannot wait to go back to normalcy. It's the biggest thing that can happen to all of us.
Amen, amen. Thank you so much.
The golden goose is waiting for everybody.
I'm sure they're also waiting to go back and eat there. Thank you, Shahar. Lori, are you with us here? Are you on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, hey, Lori.
Hi.
So Lori Dekalo is from Chicago, and she planned to visit her daughter, Shelly, on May 4th. Lori got to Israel, went into isolation because of COVID-19, the rules here in Israel, and she got out of isolation on the 6th of May, and then basically found herself in a war zone. Lori was with Shelly in an Airbnb in Tel Aviv with no safe room. The stairwell, which is where they tell you to go to if you don't have a safe room, has windows. So that was not an option. So Lori found herself running with Shelly down the road. They have 90 seconds to get to shelter. Lori, wow. I'm not even sure where to start on this one, but can you please just tell us a little bit about your thoughts and feelings over the past couple of weeks? Because this is definitely not what you had planned when you said you were going to come to Israel to visit your daughter, correct?
Absolutely not. It was full focus on being with my daughter because we haven't been able to travel here since before COVID. And she finished the Army right when COVID hit. So I wasn't even able to be here for that. And it's been a rough period of time. Nothing's worse than being denied access to your kid. Got to tell you that. And fast forward to this visit, so super happy to be here. And even the fact that I had to be in a bidud for a couple of days, it's okay because I was with Shelly and she was working from home. She moved in with me into my Airbnb here in Tel Aviv, and that was all fine. And the first couple of days was friends and meeting her friends and seeing some family that I have here, and it was great. And then Monday night we were out to dinner. I get to meet her roommates and hang with the roommates. We sat down, we're having our iced tea. Then we ordered, the sirens then go off, and I had no clue what, you don't know if it's police sirens at first, you don't know what's going on. And then everybody, you see the wide eyes, and everybody got up, grabbed their purses, ran nicely down the stairs. And then all of a sudden, before we all even make it down the stairs, you hear the big explosions, you hear the big booms, and it's the Iron Dome. But you're hearing these booms, you don't know what the hell is going on. And my first time experiencing this, of course, I've heard about this through the years, but nothing like having experienced this. So it went on through the night that way. And then we walked home quickly after we were told it was okay to do so. And it continued on that night. And again, like you mentioned, not having a safe room or anything, but that night we did stay in the hallway because that's what the landlord told us to do. And there was other people in the building, and we're backed up against a wall, not moving. And her roommate ended up staying with us because we didn't want her roommate by herself. So that continued to happen. Went to sleep dressed because 90 seconds is amazing compared to the 15 seconds, which is shocking. We had always heard about it from the Gaza Envelope communities and Sderot and everything. But the first time running down the street, I actually counted 15 seconds to see how far I was in the 15 seconds. We weren't at the shelter.
No.
And the booms were going and the explosions were going. There were so many rocket attacks. And that's just in Tel Aviv, which is nothing compared to the Gaza Envelope communities. You hear about it, but there's nothing like experiencing it. And I'm thankful I'm here, and I got to be here with my daughter instead of freaking out in Chicago. Sorry about my windows are open, doors are open here. But I have to tell you, while this was all going on, when you talk about JNF being a family, a lot of cool things happened, and the JNF family that I have here, okay, this isn't in any particular order, but Eric Michelson, for example, was getting ready to leave. He was called up as a reservist and he calls to check on me. He's got his family and he's going into the reserves and he called me to see how I'm doing. Shockingly amazing. And Shahar and Noah and Tamar, everybody just checking on me. It's like, and there were others, and Deb Zaluda from Chicago, and she had just left. She had been here. She had good timing to go back home. I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to be part of JNF and with what's going on here. I've been involved with JNF for at least a dozen years, been on the board in Chicago and been on missions and everything else, but man, this was something else. And what the community here goes through, again, I'm sorry, I don't mean just Tel Aviv. This is one of the first times I think 2014, Tel Aviv experienced this.
Yeah.
But being from Chicago and seeing how everybody reacts, so calm, so cool. Nobody's screaming or freaking or running or panicking. There was no run on the grocery stores. We went to the grocery store quickly, like the next day, and there was still food on the shelves. And yes, there was toilet paper on the, Chicago.
What about the toilet paper?
So it was really amazing that people here act like everything's normal. And externally, I was trying to, inside, it was impossible. And fast forward to the night before the ceasefire, before we knew there was gonna be a ceasefire, Noah Geffen invited me to attend the event that was happening at one of the historic sites up on the Lower Galilee for families of Sderot. So they out to have a day of R&R and just to experience it. And everything is in Hebrew. I don't speak Hebrew. I can understand some, and then I make my own story, but the looks on everybody's faces, and the kids are smiling and the parents are smiling and the kids are feeling relief and they're singing with the musicians and running around being kids. It was fantastic. And then yesterday I got to go, oh my God, it was unbelievable. I got to go with Special in Uniform. Tehran also has been amazing. So Tehran invited me to go to a Special in Uniform graduation. And I've been to a few before, and it just, especially now, just everything is more meaningful than ever. And thankful to be here. And thankful for enough.
Lori, I'm so happy first thing to see you smiling. So that's already a plus, right?
Thank you.
I see in my private chats here, shout out to Lori from her Chicago JNF family. So it looks like more people are waiting for you to come home and missing you. You have a couple more days here in Israel, right?
I extended it to stay longer to next week, to next Wednesday.
Well, I'm hoping that at least in the next week or so, you'll be able to just have some peace, some quiet, some quality time with your daughter before you go back. And we can't wait to see you back in Israel again really, really soon. Hopefully no war zone next time. I mean, no promises, but we'll try, okay? Thank you so much, Lori, for sharing today.
Thank you.
The last person that I'd like to call on, Gary, is our president of Jewish National Fund USA. If you can just spotlight Saul, that would be great. Saul, you there?
I'm here. Thanks, Yoel. Thanks. Well, first, I'd like to thank everybody, our JNF family, on the right at the heart of the issue. Mark and Yoel and Eric and Shahar and of course Yael and everyone. I mean, what they've done there on behalf of us in the U.S. is unbelievable. And Lori's story is so telling of what we hear every day from, not just in crisis, but every day from our family in Israel. So I want to thank all of our JNF employees that it's hard to call you an employee. It's more like family, but for what you do there every day. And just to reiterate what Yael said regarding a national conference, now more than ever, we need to go to Israel. Lauren and I are going soon just to go through and see what the whole conference is going to look like, go through the steps, go through the venues to make sure that everybody has a phenomenal time. So if you're on the bubble, should I go, shouldn't go? This is the time to make your decision to go. like you heard from Lori, come visit your family in Israel, your JNF family, obviously, and go to jnf.org/NC, which stands for National Conference, or call your local professional in your area. So this is the time to support everyone in Israel and help them get back to normalcy. So thanks, Yael, for calling on me.
Not a problem at all. Okay, everybody. So a reminder that tomorrow we'll be back at 7 p.m. Israel time, 12 p.m. Eastern, and 9 a.m. Pacific time for our final update. And as I say every night, all I can say is good night from Jerusalem.